What is going on, Dragon Ball fans? Welcome back to another Dragon Ball Super discussion, where today we're going to be talking about the possible ending scenarios to the Tournament of Power. Now, before we begin this video, guys, I do want to say, if your opinions differ than ours, if you feel as if the ending of the Tournament of Power may actually be different than how we talk about in this video, go on ahead and post your comments down below. And today, I'm joined by both Emosh and my friend Daz as we talk about this. Now, guys, I'm pretty sure as of right now, ever since the inception of the Tournament of Power, a lot of people have been wondering as to how this might end. Now, I want to present some scenarios to you guys and see what you guys have to say in terms of feedback. Now, one of the very likely possible scenarios in this actual arc would be for Universe 7 to win. Now, I want to know from both of you guys, if the likelihood of Universe 7 winning this tournament would, play out, do you guys believe that it'll be predictable to see Goku and or Vegeta or Gohan or any one of the Universe Team 7 members win? And if that were to happen, since the Dragon Balls, are on the line and they are the prize, what are your thoughts on Universe 7 having to win and that having to be a very predictable ending? But in terms of them winning, how would you feel about this having to just go down the road and just having BEERUS, BEERUS' universe come out victorious in this? I'm gonna start with Daz.
Well, with that, I'd say it'd be kind of bland and boring, and it wouldn't be as hype since it's expected, and since we know how Akira writes, it'd just be too boring for me.
You think that it wouldn't have like any sort of depth, or you think that it would just be too predictable?
Because when you think about Akira, he doesn't really follow up with what we predict. He's very unpredictable with his story writing, even though he's a basic writer. But
do you believe that an ending like that would be more than fitting, or do you think that it would be just very, very dull in an essence?
It'd be very dull for the arc since it's been very hyped up. You feel me?
And what about you, Emosh? Like having Goku emerge the victor, like, do you feel as if it would be a suitable ending for them to have, even though it would be predictable, or do you believe that it'll be fitting for such a tournament like that to end?
Well, there's a couple of things that I think we have to consider. If we look at it from a perspective where the likelihood as to what's to happen, right? Goku could win the tournament, and that's that. He's so determined to win as it is. So at this point, it's kind of like, dude, if you lose the tournament, do you have an idea what that's going to do to you as a character? Forget the universe. I mean, obviously you won't exist as a universe. You won't even exist anymore. Right. But it also begs the question as to the relationship that Goku is portraying to have with Zenchan, right? So it also I think that's also going to be a key factor in the tournament, because we do know that even though Zenchan might look at Goku like just nothing more than a entertainment, right?
Right.
At the same time, you cannot argue that both of them, especially both of them now, even the future one, have taken a liking to Goku. It doesn't really matter what perspective you look at it from. Even if it's just entertainment or as an actual friend, like a legitimate friend, the bottom line is the two of them would not have met had it not been for Goku. So in a sense, even though they are gods, even though they are like the highest of the highest, right? The highest of the high.
Right.
In a way, you could even argue that they do kind of owe him one, right? So I would imagine that despite what may or may not happen at the end of all of this, they will write it off in one of two ways. Either one, Goku wins and that's that, and everybody's happy, everybody's going crazy. It's a lot of action. Jiren also becomes a potential top 5 favorite character for a lot of people.
Of course. But right. I mean, the overall, just perception on having Goku be the victor, or even someone from Universe 7, just the concept of Universe 7 winning.
I think it's expected. I mean,
yeah,
it's kind of expected, but at the same time, just like Daz said, he's very unpredictable.
But don't you think it's too expected though?
Yeah, that's what makes it interesting. That's what makes it interesting.
That's another thing too. It's like, Zeno, say if Goku does win and he ends up destroying all the universes, and Goku just wishes him back, what is that gonna do with
That's
Goku?
The thing.
Yeah,
I feel as if they introduced the Dragon Balls way too early, because we spoke about this off camera when the Grand Priest spoke about the Dragon Balls and how Champa even said, yeah, I gathered 3 of them. It told you right then and there, like, okay, well, even if said universes were to get destroyed, they can be wished back, depending on who wins the tournament, because I'm pretty sure that if a particular universe wins, they're not going to want to wish anyone back. But in Goku's case, I feel as if, like, he's one of those people that would say, you know what, since I caused all this destruction and devastation and tension between universes, I feel bad, so let's just go ahead and wish them back. I mean, and the gods would have, I think the gods would be very shocked if that were to happen, because for them to come back to seeing how they labeled Goku as an enemy and for their enemy to bring them back, like I think that they would give them like said gratitude and saying thank you. You know, I guess we can call it even for you having to host this tournament and even after you won, you know, for bringing us back. But I think that such an ending would be way too predictable, because I mean, as of right now, a lot of us do believe that Universe 7 will emerge victorious, but well, go ahead.
What if, for example, we know Jiren is a part of the Pride Troopers, right? The Justice Warriors, right? They believe on that. Toppo's the leader. They, you know, let's say theoretically, even if Universe 11 did win, who's to say they wouldn't use that wish either?
I was gonna get into that, but I just want to touch up on Universe 7 first, because I feel as if Universe 7, it is a main vocal point here, because we know that they're emphasizing on attacking Goku, and they're emphasizing that Goku started this. And Universe 7, as of now, more so than any other universe, is labeled as the enemy. So what is the likelihood of this ending having to come about in Dragon Ball Super? Do you think it's highly possible, or do you think it's sort of unlikely to happen because Akira wants to keep things unpredictable?
Well, I think it's possible.
Yeah, same. I agree with that.
Because the expectations alone is what makes it highly likely, like possible. And it's what we've seen time and time again, where once we had it where it was Goku versus this villain, Goku always managed to find some way, or the Z Fighters always managed to find some way to, you know, climb out on top. But now we have a little twist to it where it's kind of like a worldwide thing. It's on a multiversal scale.
There's a consequence to it.
Now,
so now, exactly.
Now, having Universe 7 be one of many scenarios to come out victorious, I also want to talk about the polar opposite. I want to talk about Universe 6. Now, I personally feel as if this ending, to me at least, would be a little best suited for, you know, this to come about, because if you want to look at the interaction between Universe 7 and Universe 6, Champa, BEERUS, Goku, Hit, they do have a relation. They do have a working relation, even though they may not seem eye to eye on certain things. You cannot deny the fact that a person like Hit having to be in this tournament and seeing what he did in Universe 6 and seeing how he gradually improved during the battle against Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken Goku times 10, it was very scary to see the way he was improving while fighting such a warrior like that. And who's to say that as of right now, let's say for example, if Team Universe 7 does get knocked out, what are the chances of having Universe 6 be victorious? And I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys may already know where I'm going with this, in having Champa win and ultimately seeing how selfless BEERUS was in reviving Champa's world for his universe. Do you think that if Universe 6 wins, Vados is going to kind of tell Champa, you kind of owe it to your brother, because if it were not for him, you wouldn't have the delicacies that you have in your universe. So what are your thoughts on Universe 6 winning and Champa having to do the favor and not only bring back, you know, Team Universe 7 and the other universes, but like just having Champa emerge victorious for once? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I find that as a good way to develop on other characters other than the Universe 7 characters, because it's like we never really got in-depth character interactions like that ever since Dragon Ball. So I find that as a good possible ending for this arc.
What do you think, Emosh?
Definitely. I'm a big fan of character development as it is. Whether I like the character or not is a completely different, you know, story. But if a character develops and becomes a major part of a story that has solely been focused on Goku as of lately, I support that. And but the thing is, I also support where Goku's going with this tournament as well. I support his endeavors, and I would like to see him grow even more. And because it's always great to see Goku fight when he's 100%, right? I mean, we don't often get to see that. You know, Goku has a bad habit, just like Vegeta said. He has a bad habit of not taking fights seriously for the first, like, 12 episodes. Yeah, exactly. So I think it's great. If Universe 6 wins, though, just like Dad said, it does add a very a pleasant twist to it. But the only drawback, even though what you're saying is it's possible, anything is possible, right? But that's definitely possible. The only problem with Hit or just Universe 6 winning is, I feel like Universe 6 are definitely the underdogs, right? In the sense where they don't necessarily have a lot of talent. You could argue they could potentially work well as a team, but the thing is, we've only seen teamwork between like Magetta and Botamo, like in the baseball match, right? And we don't know what Kaba is capable of. And Hit is arguably like a Vegeta or Goku of Universe 6. We don't know where his teamwork, you know, capabilities lie, and we don't even know if he could solo, you know, pretty much help everybody carry his team to, you know, to victory. So in that scenario, and granted the fact as to how they portrayed him to lose, so easily to Goku after they had their rematch. I know you didn't like that, so to this day, I'm sure you don't like it.
No, I really don't.
And I think that hurt Hit as a fighter in some people's eyes, and I'm sure it hurt him in your eyes. So I think those two things are what make it unlikely for Universe 6 to win. But if anyone else other than Universe 7 did win, on that purpose alone, on that point that you brought up, where Champa does owe him a big favor, I think that is also a viable theory. That's a viable.
And what's funny
scenario.
about this is Champa's one of those guys that would brag on for like decades on, I beat your universe.
He would
stuff.
rub it in Beerus's face.
He would rub it in
Yeah,
Beerus's
he
face.
would.
Like I can definitely see him saying, "What happened to your golden boy? He finally fell short of the stick." Like that. That'll be classic entertainment to see how Beerus is like, "What? My brother won out of all people? Like we're doomed." Because I mean, we don't know if Zenshan is going to destroy the losing universe immediately once all of their team members are eliminated, or if he's gonna wait towards the end, because we don't really know. But if it's to a point where Zenshan waits towards the end of the tournament to determine who gets destroyed, then I do think having Champa say, you know what, I owe my brother one. I mean, I can't see him doing it alone though. I can definitely see Vados having such an input in this and saying, hey,
And I can also see Champa. I can also see that backfiring his bragging, because after Beerus is gone, who else does Champa have to compete with? Because that's all.
Yeah, that's true as well. But I think that it is possible for Team Universe 6 to win, even though everyone is going to be saying, well, it's going to be Team Universe 7, it's going to be Goku's team. And like I said before, I think that as of now, that still stands as the most likely scenario to come about.
Yeah,
I just feel as if having a twist occur to the point where, even though if Goku does achieve a new form, or if Goku does do something just amazing in this tournament, having him be thrown out would be very unexpected, because everyone expects Goku's new power to rival that of everyone that's participating in this. So I feel as if, and you can't take someone like Hit lightly, and I'm pretty sure that during the point of this tournament they will fight again, and judging based on what we saw before, he will also improve. So it's who's to say that Hit doesn't, well, if he enters this tournament a little weaker than Jiren and Goku, who's to say that by the end of it he doesn't emerge a little stronger because of all the improvement he's done? So between Universe 6 winning and Universe 7 winning, which scenario would you like to see more, between the obvious team winning or Champa's universe emerging victorious?
I'd like to see Champa's team.
Champa's team. What about you, Emosh?
I would say Universe 7 because...
Wow, okay.
Well, the reason, here's why. Because I would like to see Vegeta be potentially have the spotlight. Yeah, no, that's why I think he deserves it. Okay, he deserves it, especially what just happened recently.
So you would want Vegeta to win it all?
I would. The thing is, I would hate to see him lose in this kind of format.
Yeah, okay.
That's the problem. If it was a one-on-one match, I could. Right. I could understand if he lost in a one-on-one match, but in this kind of format, even and if you think back to his background, where he comes from, I think it's going to be really exciting to see what he can do in a battle royale format. That's going to be fucking amazing. I think it's going to be amazing to see. So yeah, I'm really rooting for Universe 7. I'm rooting for Universe 7 mainly because of him.
And not to mention, like, like his friend Goku just jeopardized his newborn baby girl's life by having this tournament come about. Like just her very existence having to be terminated if they lose. I mean,
his happy ending also has been voided in the last few arcs as well. So
no, absolutely. I mean, but he has had its moments before. Like he's had definitely definitive moments. But I feel as if Akira knows that the fans definitely expect Universe 7 to win. Who knows? I mean, you may be right. Maybe Vegeta wins, or maybe, the person that you hate the most, Krillin, pulls off the victory. You never know. But going back to what you said, what you said in the beginning, you spoke about Universe 11. Now, another possible scenario is Universe 11 does emerge victorious. And what's unique about them is they represent justice, and they represent, having to be righteous and having to do things a certain way to abide by the gods. And I wanted to ask you, if Universe 11 does emerge victorious, what are the likelihood chances of them having to say it's unfair for all the gods to be destroyed and having their universes wagered for such a tournament like this? Do you think it's possible that if Universe 11 wins, that they could do the deed in bringing everyone back, just for the sake of having everything, restored and having to be balanced out? Or do you believe that they would do their own thing and not care in the world about anyone else. What do you think?
Yeah, I feel like the angels, specifically the angels, will talk to the Pride Troopers and point out their flaws in believing that Goku's an enemy of this arc, and also bring up how Zeno was going to destroy them anyway, and bring up the point that Goku's also given them a fighting chance to save their universe. So I can see that. That
can definitely work out, because nobody knows that it's not really Goku's fault. I mean, the Omni King was going to do this anyway.
Exactly.
And based on what I blame everything on Bergamo, because the way Bergamo made everything seem like he really pointed
was
Goku
upset
out
about
as
his
the black sheep.
His sandcastle was turned over.
So, Emosh, what do you think about this?
The only problem, now see that it just depends how we look at it. The only problem, I agree with it to an extent, but the only problem with that is that would the angels actually go that far as to make a recommendation against what Zeno-sama originally wants?
Oh, that is a good point.
So that's the only problem. We know when it was mentioned to BEERUS and everybody that they were going to get erased, we didn't say anything that even remotely sounded like he would help out.
Well, it doesn't really affect him either. Remember that?
Yeah, exactly. That's why he was just laughing like, ho, 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 ho. Well, I'm on a different stature than you, BEERUS, etc. So the same way with Vado, she had that smirk on her face. The angels don't seem too bothered, nor do they seem to be too involved in this tournament. The only reason they're even giving an input as it is because they're still bound to their specific Hakaishin, right? So by their duty, by their law, they still have to do certain things. They still have to provide assistance. If BEERUS says train Goku, they have to do it. So to that extent, we could arguably say that that's the only reason. Other than that, I personally don't see the angels going against what Zeno-sama originally wants, let alone the Daishinkan, because the Daishinkan doesn't do it. He enforces to the highest degree what Zeno-sama wants, even though it has been, to some people, they feel like maybe the Daishinkan is the one who's instigating it, because we don't really see Zeno saying some of the things that the Daishinkan is saying. Yeah. But I also feel like the Daishinkan, it's because he's under the Omni King. It's because he serves him directly. He's the only current angel right now that literally serves at his palace, that if anything, he would be able to summarize in a nutshell what Zeno-sama wants, because Zeno-sama is he's very indirect. He just says yes and no, and I want this and I want that, as to where the Daishinkan has a habit of actually describing to a T what and why Zeno-sama wants what he wants. So that's the only problem with that. But it is possible, because this is a discussion of theories. So, obviously anything can happen, but that's just how I feel about that.
I mean, having to look at characters like Toppo and seeing how he's so passionate about this, he's one of those characters where I feel as if it came down to protecting his universe, he definitely would. And even for the namesake of other universes as well, because he even pointed out and saying, you are the multiverse's problem, like you are the enemy of the gods. And having the revelation come about where Goku isn't this monster that Toppo and everyone else painted him out to be, and that he gave everyone a chance to represent themselves and have a fighting chance at survival. I think that an ending like this is very unlikely in an essence, because can you really see Vermout actually going about and saying, well, let's bring everyone back and let's just call it a day? It'll be very similar to Universe 7's wish, don't you think?
Kai could do it. If anything, Kai could do it. He does cherish life. He does cherish life. He has a strong sense of justice. So it's not so much about the Hakaishin, because we know the Hakaishin, according to spoilers, are the ones who are going to have this meeting. But the Kais are the ones who are having a meeting that seem to be a little more just, as opposed to the ones that the Hakaishin are having. So I would say if it came from Universe 11, not the angel, not Margarita, but maybe Kai would be the one to suggest it to the warrior who wins, if it was Jiren to win, etc. So, but then again, we don't even know what Jiren or how he carries himself. We don't know. He may not be as serious as Toppo is. He may have a totally different sense of justice than Toppo does. But we're gonna have to see how he operates to actually say, okay, you know what? It's safe to say at this point that Jiren, in a way, in terms of a character, is superior to Toppo in a sense.
Now, looking at the three universes that we spoke about, because those are the universes that we are familiar with now, there are obviously others a part of this tournament. I really can't see, I'm sorry, but I can't see Universe 3, Universe 4, Universe 9 winning. I personally don't think that it's in the deck of cards for that to happen. However, I also want to speak of another scenario, and this one is a bit interesting, because it also brings up several concerns as to, well, who would do such a thing? Now, what is the likelihood of this tournament having to be interrupted? Now, right off the bat, I can tell you, well, who would be dumb enough to interrupt a tournament with 2 Omni Kings, a Daishinkan, 4 guards, 12 angels, 12 gods, 12 Kaioshins, and 80 fighters. And 80 fighters, right? You have to have massive balls to do that. Unless, of course, you're Zamasu and you showed up again. That's the only person I feel as if would have balls to do this, but since he's not involved, do you think that somewhere along the line, there's going to be an interruption that's going to present us with an actual villain? Because similar to Universe 6 versus Universe 7, during that arc, we didn't have a villain. It was just fighter versus fighter. But here, it's very similar. So, do you think that such a scenario would be likely in presenting a new villain that can carry on into the next arc? Or do you think an interruption is not possible?
Maybe my idea is kind of far. But what if there was a really powerful being from the other 6 universes that's passed? What if one of them found a way to sneak over to the other universes?
You're gonna have to ask yourself. It's like, where were they even in hiding the entire time? It's like
true.
Yeah, that's the problem with that. I personally, you gotta understand something. They already have a villain. Well, the universe has portrayed the villain to be Goku. So that's that. So at the end, that's our villain. I mean, he's not our villain, but that's the villain for the arc, right?
Yeah.
And he's gladly at this point in time, he's gladly accepting that quote unquote role.
Yeah.
So I think that's it, and it could end up like the 6 and 7 tournament where we didn't really have a primary villain. This is solely for the end. Just like you said, who would have the balls to do that? I don't even think to be honest, I just don't see that happening. You know, he's been erased once before. I think he's had enough. I think he's been destroyed once.
But judging based on Zamasu's character, I feel as if like he would be the one to do so. But even though he doesn't exist as of now,
I think Gowasu would facepalm himself.
Oh yeah, he would. He'd be like, Zamas. Like it'll be like you know, for him to show up and saying I'm the most beautiful god and all that garbage, like, you know.
Yeah,
but I think that as of now, having to look at just the scale of fighters and angels and gods that are there, I don't think anyone would have the balls to interrupt, which is why I feel as if this ending is very unlikely, because first of all, you're gonna have to introduce someone who truly does rival the powers of those beings that are presently there. And not only that, but you're gonna have to make it. You're gonna have to allow this character to interrupt by having it make sense. You can't just have an outside source interrupt without there having to be any sort of cause.
Especially if considering that it's the world of void.
Yeah,
like, true. You can't get in or out. The only being who lets you in or out. So far as to what we know, we can speculate that it's the Daishinkan and the Omni King. That's it.
Yeah. But there's no one else. Even with that, it may not be an outside source. But what if there's an interruption between, the premise of what happens within the world of void? For example, the gods or the angels or the Daishinkan. It causes some interruption within, that circle of fighting. I mean, we do have 48 minutes, I believe, until time is up for them to determine a winner. So do you think within that time, someone is going to step in and say, no, this is BS, stuff like that?
I would say arguably then, and this is kind of like, I think this is going a little too far, but I think it's the most likely. And if we were to just, since this is the topic, right, that's the question. Who do you think would be the most likely to interrupt? Just like you said, who would have the balls? I don't think it's the Hakaishin. They're too terrified of the Omni King, let alone 2 of them, let alone the Daishinkan. They're too terrified.
I don't believe
the angels
it's the Kaioshin either.
Right. I think
way below.
I think it would be the Daishinkan himself, but it just depends on what the scenario is. That's the only problem. If I give you that scenario, I just can't give you a scenario as to why he would interrupt. Well, I would imagine it would have something to do with potentially Goku breaking his limit.
I was going to say that. What about similar to what we saw against Toppo? What if he just stops it? Because the Omni King was like, whoa. Do you see that happening again to the point where he calls like for a pause or something? Or do you think that he's going to allow this to like just go into the actual definitive end?
I mean, he did suggest that he did tell Zeno to save it for the actual tournament, so I feel like he's just gonna let it go.
Okay. Yeah. But in terms of the Daishinkan interrupting, Emosh, do you think it'll be for the right cause, or do you think that he could possibly even pause the tournament for the time being just to add in more rules or whatever?
The way they portrayed, the way they drew his face in the Zen exhibition match, it wasn't until Goku started really pushing himself, right, that the Daishinkan had a concerned look on his face, but I think he just simplified his reason to Zeno specifically as to why he didn't want them to continue the fight, that perhaps they could have ended up killing each other and it would take away from the tournament. It could potentially be that there's something much more deeper that he noticed coming from Goku. Obviously, the Daishinkan is probably the smartest character in Dragon Ball Super right now, arguably, right? I would say he is.
Yeah, he is.
So he may be able to see, he may have saw something, felt something, or just, that's how I see it. When you have a character like that, you have to assume the best of him. And at that scenario, it would be the best thing for him to assume that maybe he noticed something, and okay, we're gonna save it in the Tournament of Power. We'll save it for that. And I don't know, but I do personally feel like that would be the most likely scenario as to where an interruption would take place. It would definitely come from him, and that he would potentially just simplify his reason for interrupting again.
I feel as if he does interrupt, I think if it does boil down to a few characters, I can see him making the call to where he says, all right, well, there's a few minutes left and the Omni King wants this to be an all-out, slobber knocker, so we're gonna allow no rules. Like I can see to the point where, since it's like the finale of the tournament and you really want to ramp it up, I can see him saying, you know what, let's remove all the rules, and since there's like about 5 minutes or whatever, let's just end this in a bang. You can kill, you can do whatever, and that would be very interesting because it's like, oh shit, now we're not playing by any rules. We can do whatever we need to do to survive this. So I can see that happening. But in terms of him, for anyone out there who's curious, in terms of him, having to interrupt just to fit his own agenda, I can't see that. I think this is one of the most unlikely scenarios, but I want to roll this into a possible final scenario here, and that's nobody winning. What if every single individual, I mean, even if that, what if it does boil down to Goku and Jiren and it ends up being a double knockout? What if they both, somehow get each other out the ring and there's nobody left in the ring? What happens then? Do you involve the other 4 universes that are excluded? Do you continue somehow in a sudden death? What do you think happens if this does result in a draw?
A 2v2 death match deciding which of the last 2 universes win.
but how would you even do that if there's nobody in the ring?
True.
I think it would be sudden death. I can see sudden death happening because it is a prop scenario. Just on the fact that it's a tournament, then you would ideally have a sudden death. If something comes to a draw, you have to figure out some way to to sort it out, right? So the only possible way I see at this point happening is a sudden death, or again, if the Daishinkan decides to get involved and he says whichever one of you can land a hit on me first then wins, maybe that's another scenario. Because I mean, there are people, and I'm one of them, who would love to see something from him, whether it's anything
in terms of combat, right?
Well, I mean, combat, he's OP. We can't deny that. Yeah. So it's like, what way? It's bad enough that they have a difficult time portraying how strong the Hakaishin are, because they're so overpowered. How can you portray what they're capable of without making it seem like, okay, it's broken? You see what I'm saying? So imagine the Daishinkan.
It doesn't have to be like a fight. It could be a test. More than.
But then it kind of dulls down the whole scenario of it being a tournament. Like, this is how you're going to end the tournament. So it has to be I would say, Alex, that a sudden death would be the more likely scenario, granted that it's a tournament.
Because I really don't think a lot of people have thought about the possibility of there being a double knockout, because even though it does sound a little too far-fetched for there to be nobody left in the ring, because I can definitely see the Omni King's expression and saying, well, what do we do now? Like, there is no winner. Like, we're gonna have to come up with something. And I do think that on the fly, they would have to come up with something. And I feel as if maybe they might go with a sudden death. But even with that, it's like, it wouldn't be fair to the other universes, because it's like, do you really base that off the last 2 that are in the ring? Or what if it's not just the last 2? What if there's 4 different representatives, like each individual fighter representing their universe, right? Like, for example, we have Goku from Universe 7, Hit from Universe 6, Jiren from Universe 11, and let's put Shu, I guess, or Joe from like universe number 10. What if we have those 4 in there and they all just get ringed out? It's like, what do you do then? You can't do a sudden death by bringing those 4 universe fighters back in. So do you think that they would involve the other universes just to say, you know what, let's do it again? Or do you think, as you said, it just might boil down to them saying, you know what, since there is no winner, there's no reason to destroy the other universes? What do you think?
Unless they just decide to wipe everybody out, and that'll really suck. Holy shit! That would suck so much. But then, how would you come? How would you?
Well, you can compensate with the other 4 still being active, but even then, it's like, geez, that's.
I mean,
terrible.
they have no interest. I think at this point they're like, listen, as long as we're alive, good. Like they don't seem to have any kind of interest at all.
They're chilling, bro. Building their sandcastles.
They're building their sandcastles. So they're definitely very fortunate. Unless, I mean, you have to also consider the fact that the Daishinkan did give Goku the heads up to begin with, strictly because Zeno-sama has taken a liking to him. He did tell him when the tournament would start first. He told him what the rules for the tournament would be first, right? Not the actual ring or anything, but the likelihood of what would take place, meaning if you lost, right?
Yeah.
He also told him about the Super Dragon Balls. To this day, nobody else knows about the Super Dragon Balls yet. So those things I feel play into a factor, which I personally have a problem with because it kind of gives Goku an advantage to know what's on the line. Yeah, to know what's on the line if you win and to know what's on the line if you lose. I think personally it's an unfair advantage. Does Goku give a shit? I think that's what balances out. I don't think Goku's concerned with the Super Dragon Balls. He's just concerned with growing. So
I could see Goku like maybe after, you know, his battle with Jiren and Zeno decides to blow up everything, I can see Goku speaking to the Omni King like, bro, don't do this. I gave you entertainment or something. I really want to fight these guys again because they're very powerful. So I can see Goku, some of his, you know, his Saiyan characters.
Yeah, like if you erase all of us, then what will you do for fun? You know what I'm saying? So it's like that's a scenario that is going to be very sensitive, though. You're going to have a lot of the fan base that may not actually like that. You may have some section of the fan base that might say, well, they should have just ended it between a fight with Jiren and Goku and then having ultimately Goku win. At the end of the day, you're going to have your section of the fan base not be happy and have a section of the fan base be happy. So,
well, I mean, yeah, that's for all endings. If you have Team Universe 11 winning 7-6, interruption, no contest. I mean, as you said in the beginning of the video, I mean, this can go in any direction. For all we know, you know, this could result in many different scenarios having to play out. But what I think what makes this very interesting is the fact that this is one of the very few arcs where we're left scratching our heads as to like, okay, well, where do we go from here? It's like there's so many scenarios, and I do want to stick with Team Universe 7 winning because I think it's way too predictable. And I think if you want to build a closing story and if you want to allow the gods not to respect Goku, but to give him credit for saying, you know what, he brought us back, he did what he had to do, and at least he gave us a fighting chance. For them to grow from hating him to liking him in the end, I think that they're going to stick with that. Although I might be wrong, they might do something else. Any other closing statements or any other, you know, possible scenarios you guys want to throw in before we head out here?
I pretty much said mine just now.
Emosh, do you have the ultimate god Popo stepping in or what?
You know,
I would die laughing if Popo's face popped up in the water.
Like just his eyes and lips, right? That's it. But in his, you know, that's about it.
Like but 4-star stuff.
I would suggest though. I would suggest that potentially even you yourself, Alex. Granted that this is a YouTube discussion. Obviously, I know you're gonna encourage your viewer base to actually check me out, and obviously check out your other videos.
Guys, I'm gonna link Emosh's channel and Daz's Twitter down
as well.
Below,
exactly, yeah.
You guys
He actually has a channel of his own.
Oh, he does. Okay, so I will link that down below as well, guys.
Exactly. So other than that, thanks for having me. It's always appreciated. And as always, man, I mean, definitely check out the Discord as well. The Discord server, UnrealEntGaming's Discord server, to interact with him.
Dick pics, please.
Yeah, no dick pics, but definitely interact with us there. It helps us a lot, and it gives you guys a better understanding and a chance to actually interact with your favorite YouTubers as well. So that's pretty much it.
I think that this was a very interesting discussion because similar to, and I spoke with Emosh over the summer about this, similar to Goku Black, and everyone was scratching their heads as to like, all right, well, who, what, where, when, why, like, where do we go from here? We kind of knew, like, well, we didn't really know that it was going to be Trunks that was going to, you know, slice him in half and for Omni King to come. But I mean, we thought of that, and there were only a few scenarios as to how that was going to end. But now this arc provides us with so many different scenarios because you have to ask yourself, it's like, where do we go from here? It's like, whoever wins, it's like, are they going to do the same deed and bringing everyone else back, or are they going to be selfish? Like someone like Champa, I'm sorry, like he's a very selfish person, and I think the only way for him to do any sort of good in the universe is for Bottles to talk him into it. But if your opinions differ, guys, if you guys have anything else to add on to this, go ahead and let us know down below, guys. Thank you all for watching. If you guys are fans, don't forget to subscribe for more awesome Dragon Ball content. If you guys enjoyed the discussion, leave a like down below. Check out Emosh and Daz down below, and we'll be seeing you all in the next Dragon Ball discussion video. Take it easy, guys.